Last Lunch at Mel's, written and narrated by M.H. Smith. In a corner booth of a Hollywood diner, a young waitress set a cup of coffee in front of an old star that she adored. "Here's your coffee. If you need anything else, let me know," she said through the biggest smile she'd had since starting her job here. "I will, thanks," replied the living legend. He'd been his usual accommodating self, signed an autograph, shook a trembling hand, even tossed in his trademark catchphrase for her delight. Anything for a laugh. She was a fan, after all. You treat your fans well. It's how you keep them. He'd always lived by that, and it had served him well. Sipping his coffee, he looked around at the old joint. Mel's had been here a long time and seen so many stars of stage and screen. So much history happened here, and most of it only remembered by those who were here to live it. He didn't recognize anybody today. He'd hoped he wouldn't. After a glance at the front door, he checked his watch. As usual, his lunch companion was late. They hadn't actually had lunch in several years, but things in the aging star's life made him reach out. After a long back and forth about scheduling, they had agreed for today at Mel's, 10 minutes ago. Out of habit, he pulled out an old cigar case and started to open it, but stopped himself. He went to these when he was nervous. It was a coping mechanism, at least that's what his shrink called it. They may be, but he'd turned it into a trademark. Why shouldn't he indulge? Before he could decide, the front door sprang open with a loud crack as the handle hit a wall. All eyes were on the door as his old friend shuffled in. The still-closed cigar case found its way to the table. The newcomer knew where his friend liked to sit and made his way over. Several people gasped in recognition, but he paid them no mind. They were fans. The little people. He was a star, baby. "I'm glad you could make it," the old star said, standing halfway from the booth as his dark companion arrived. "Save the platitudes. We've worked together too long for that simple drivel," he replied, sitting down and ignoring the outstretched hand that had been offered. The old star shrugged and retook his seat. "Are the prices still robbery here?" the newcomer asked, snatching a menu from the table. "Same as always." From the corner of his eye, the old star saw his excited waitress approaching. He waved her away before she got too close. She nodded in understanding that they needed time to talk. "You look well," the old star said, smiling. "I would hope so after what I spent on the vacation and spa treatments," his friend said, looking at his reflection in the silver napkin holder. Still a narcissist. He looked away from himself and raised an eyebrow at his old friend. "You look like you could use a little rest yourself, pal. Your color is awful." The old star sighed. He knew his looks had faded lately, but he didn't think it was bad enough for anyone to notice yet. Looking down at his exposed arms changed his mind. Faded color, like a washed-out film print, showed his age and condition was unavoidable now. He took a deep breath, gathering his courage and remembering his rehearsed words. "Well, that's actually why I invited you to lunch today. You see, let me stop you right there," his friend said, holding up a hand. "I know we've had our differences in the past. Heck, we built careers out of on-screen feuding. But you know I've never had anything personally against you. That's why I've got to tell you about this project I've got first." The old star slumped into his seat. This wasn't how he wanted this talk to go. Don't think yet! You haven't heard the pitch!" The next 10 minutes were filled with dramatic gestures and sappy voice mimics, as his longtime friend and co-star told him about a movie he'd been offered the leading role in. It actually sounded like a good picture, too. There was even a small role in it for the aging star, one that would shine the spotlight on his friend in a cute way, as both a tribute to their past on-screen relationship, but also a clear statement on who was the star now. The old star could see the joy in his friend's face as he broke down each detail. He hadn't been this excited for work in years. Even his friend's longtime lisp was finally gone without a trace. He'd clearly been working on it, as he'd always been embarrassed by it. This was going to make what the old star had to say so much worse. "So what do you say, old buddy, old pal?" his friend finished. "When can you start on this picture with me?" "I can't." The excitement slid off of his friend's face in an instant. Anger began to replace it. "What do you mean, you can't?" The old star stumbled for the words in his mind. He knew what he wanted to say, but he couldn't bring himself to say the words aloud. The only alternative rolled out thoughtlessly. "I don't have the time. There's something more important that I have to—" "More important?" important, shouted his friend as he smashed his fist into the table. You haven't worked on anything new in years. You know how I know that? Because without you, I can't do anything new. Every producer I meet wants you and me together. This is the first solo gig I've been able to snag in forever. Do you realize that? I know, but listen. No. You listen, bub. I've been playing second fiddle to you for almost my whole career. The only reason I was even able to land the lead in this picture was a promise I had to make to the producers that I would get you into a small role. Do you have any idea how that feels? My first starring role in decades, and I still have to shoehorn you into the background. Is it the money? Afraid you'll have to take a pay cut for me? It's not that. No, you're right. I know you'll get your full pay, whether it's a day's small cameo or leading role, because the studio loves you. Is it just jealousy? You can't stand not to be the center of attention at my expense? I've never tried to be the center of attention. It just found you naturally, huh? Please. Oh no, I get it. You like the picture, but you want the lead. How typical. Can't let me gain a single inch of the stardom I deserve. That's not it. You're not letting me explain. What's to explain? Fine, you're not interested in the picture. Fine, I get you. But can't you just put your interests aside for just this once and do something for me? Me, your partner, your eternal co-star? You owe me that, pal. This had gone disastrously. Just tell him what you came to say, the old star thought. But all he could say was, I just can't. The two locked eyes. Both were hurt by the situation, but only one knew why. In a rage, his partner grabbed the still warm cup of mostly full coffee and splashed it in the old star's face. It only hurt his feelings. Then you truly never were my friend. Goodbye, and don't you ever call me for anything ever again, his partner said, jumping from the table and storming towards the door. The entire diner was watching the scene, but neither noticed. The old star, still dripping with coffee, leaned into the aisle and shouted, I have cancer! His partner stopped and spun back to him. He was shaking with rage as he pointed at the old star. You are cancer! He lisped. The old star did something he couldn't help. He'd done it every time he heard that lisp. He smiled. His now ex-partner saw it, scowled, and left the diner, slamming the door on the way out. Returning to his original position, the old star took out a napkin and wiped the coffee out of his face. It was then that he realized the entire diner was looking at him in pity. He then realized they heard his news. Wouldn't be long before the whole town knew. He frowned and grabbed his cigar case. Now was the time for a trademark coping mechanism. Opening the case, he removed one of the contents, put it in his mouth, and took a bite. Bugs Bunny chewed his carrot and stared down at the table. How could Daffy react this way, after all this time? Bugs knew he should have just told him over the phone, but he figured it was the type of news you tell a friend in person. Face to face, rabbit to duck. But now that friendship was gone. All the years, all the films, all the laughs meant nothing to that angry old duck now, and there was nothing he could do about it. Mr. Bunny, came a quiet voice beside him. Bugs looked up to see the face of his waitress. She was a little blurry now. I'm sorry to hear you're sick. The manager says anything you want is on the house, okay? Thanks, kid. Just another coffee and some privacy is fine, Bugs replied, putting his face back down. As she walked away, she tried to tell herself he would be okay, that he'd get treatment and be back in no time. She didn't know about the doctor's visits he'd already been through, about the most recent visit where he'd been told the facts. Inoperable. 6 months. He dipped the first bite of his second carrot in the fresh coffee. It was pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. Chewing, he remembered the last great carrot he'd had. It had been at the start of his last appointment. He'd been called in for a follow-up, and it didn't sound like great news was coming. Still, Bugs being Bugs, he tried to bring some joy to the place and make people laugh. So he did what he'd spent a career doing. Stepping into his doctor's office, he took a bite of his last great carrot and said, "Yeah, what's up, Doc?"